you first. Just now, President Putin denied having anything to do with the election interference in 2016. Every U.S. intelligence agency has concluded that Russia did. My first question for you, sir, is who do you believe? My second question is, would you now, with the whole world watching, tell President Putin, would you denounce what happened in 2016, and would you warn him to never do it again?
So let me just say that we have two thoughts. You have groups that are wondering why the FBI never took the server. Why haven't they taken the server? Why was the FBI told to leave the office of the Democratic National Committee? I've been wondering that. I've been asking that for months and months, and I've been tweeting it out and calling it out on social media. Where is the server? I want to know, where is the server, and what is the server saying? With that being said, all I can do is ask the question. My people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be, but I really do want to see the server. But I have confidence in both parties. I really believe that this will probably go on for a while, but I don't think it can go on without finding out what happened to the server. What happened to the servers of the Pakistani gentlemen that worked on the DNC? Where are those servers? They're missing. Where are they? What happened to Hillary Clinton's emails? 33,000 emails gone, just gone. I think in Russia they wouldn't be gone so easily. I think it's a disgrace that we can't get Hillary Clinton's 33,000 emails. So I have great confidence in my intelligence people, but I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today.
I'd like to add something to this. After all, I was an intelligence officer myself. And I do know how dossiers are made up. Just a second. That's the first thing. Now the second thing. I believe that Russia is a democratic state, and I hope you're not denying this right to your own country. You're not denying that the United States is a democracy. Do you believe the United States is a democracy? And if so, if it is a democratic state, then the final conclusion in this kind of a dispute can only be delivered by a trial, by the court, not by the executive, by the law enforcement. For instance, the Concord company that was brought up is being accused. It's been accused of interference. But this company does not constitute the Russian state. It does not represent the Russian state. And I brought several examples before. Well, you have a lot of individuals in the United States. Take George Soros, for instance, with multi-billion capitals. But does it make him his position, his posture, the posture of the United States? No, it does not. Well, it's the same case. There is the issue of trying a case in the court. And the final say is for the court to deliver.
The world must be ending, meaning it's Tuesday on cable news.
It's just as serious to me as the Cuban Missile Crisis in terms of an attack or the 9/11 attack. I would say that his performance today will live in infamy as much as the Pearl Harbor attack or Kristallnacht.
Curious to get to that, but if he's a Russian plant, he's the worst one ever. I mean, what kind of plant would try to force Germany to cancel its Russian oil contracts? Oil being Russia's only major export besides spies. What kind of plant would demand that NATO up their military spending to straitjacket Mad Vlad? What kind of plant boosts our military by billions, which allows us to do whatever the hell we want until forever? I say an awesome plant. Seriously, you gotta be nuts if you think he's the Manchurian candidate. John Brennan does, and he voted for a commie at the height of the Cold War. I guess he's the expert.
I call him the Great One, Mark Levin. So I said at the beginning of the show, we have now witnessed the single worst 24 hours in the history of the mainstream media, which is saying a lot because we know how corrupt they are. Reaction.
Well, you know, Sean, what we've learned about the media, several of the hosts and guests, is we have a lot of psychopaths out there, that's for sure.
Okay, how do you really feel?
Well, comparing the president's conference with Putin to Pearl Harbor, 9/11, Kristallnacht, the beginning of the Holocaust, calling him a traitor and treasonous. You know, 2 weeks ago they said he was running Japanese internment camps and Nazi concentration camps. This is the pseudo-media. And now it comes to Russia. Now the liberals, the media, the Democrats, some Republicans, very upset about Russia. You know, they've had more positions on Russia than Stormy Daniels, as far as I'm concerned. And let me point out some history. This is very, very important. John McCain, God bless him, and others have said that what Trump did at that press conference is the worst interaction we've ever had with Russia, the worst diplomatic disaster ever. I want the American people, forget about the media, I want you to know something. In 1945, at the Yalta Conference, Franklin Roosevelt sold out half of Europe to Stalin. He repeatedly praised Stalin. Franklin Roosevelt is the hero of the Democrat Party. He of Japanese internment camps, too. In Yalta, he gave up half of Europe to the Soviet Union. In 1961, JFK met with Khrushchev. JFK told a friend of his that he was rolled over, that he came across weak, that it was pretty disastrous, his meeting with Khrushchev. And a few weeks later, what do? The Soviets are shipping missiles to Cuba, and they're building a wall in Berlin. In 1975, Gerald Ford in Helsinki with Brezhnev, 35 other countries, recognized the territorial sovereignty of the Soviet Union, which included the captive nations of Eastern Europe. In 1979, Jimmy Carter placed a big wet kiss on Brezhnev's cheek in Vienna. All this hysteria about this press conference. The president said, look, I could have said it better, I should have said this, and they act like it's the apocalypse. It's not. The left in this country has defended the Rosenbergs, they defended Alger Hiss, they defended Ted Kennedy in 1983 and 4 when he was colluding with the Kremlin to defeat Reagan. The left, the Democrats, the media in this country opposed SDI, the Strategic Defense Initiative, which had as its purpose to defend us against Russian nuclear missiles. They called it Star Wars. To this day, the left won't fund it. To this day, the Democrat Party opposes it. They opposed his Pershing II missiles to modernize medium-range nuclear missiles, which he eventually put in Europe, again to defeat the Soviet Union. So the left goes back and forth, the Democrats. If, in fact, Donald Trump had turned to Putin after a 2-hour private meeting, after setting up this summit, and all of a sudden in public turns to Putin and says, look, you little bastard, we know you interfered in our election, they would be attacking Trump today. The way that Trump turned to the Germans and NATO and said, hey, you're buying 70% of your natural gas from the Ruskies, you're funding their war machine, and then you ask us to subsidize you? The media and the Democrats and the same people went nuts. But some more facts. Obama's president. Obama did nothing effective at all to stop the Russians' interference in our election. He's the one who ought to be under investigation. No pushback for the invasion of Georgia. No pushback for the annexation of Crimea. No pushback for the invasion of eastern Ukraine. No pushback from Russia's criminal shoot-down of flight MH17. He capitulated to Russia in Syria, the unmet red lines, his betrayal of Poland and the Czech Republic by acceding to Russia's demand to remove U.S. missile defense systems there. He betrayed the Ukraine by refusing to provide them with defensive weapons. Now, contrast that disaster, that utter appeasement, to what Trump has done in 18 months. He's expanded sanctions on Russian companies and apparatchiks. He's expanded and beefed up NATO. He's had a massive increase in U.S. defense spending, no thanks to the liberals, restoring missile defenses to Poland and the Czech Republic, returning heavy armored divisions to Germany, pre-positioning armed brigades in the Baltics, ending arms embargoes on Ukraine and Georgia that Obama imposed on victims of Russian aggression, ending the ban of oil exports to try and compete with the Russians when it comes to their oil. And I could go on and on and on this. These are notes I had typed out on this. So all this hysteria, the fact of the matter is Trump hasn't done a thing to harm America with respect to Russia, and Obama did nothing to protect America when it came to Russia. The same attitude Obama had when it came to The Chinese in the South China Sea building their phony islands. The North Koreans as they're building their nukes. The Iranians, he gave them $150 billion and a wet kiss on the lips. So the attacks on Trump, this overwrought, hysterical, insane attack by the media, the Democrats, some in the Republican Party, and some phony conservatives. It's okay.
Let me ask you this.
You're allowed to question a president. Just don't go nuts.
No, they can't help themselves.
Bottom line is, two entities interfered in our election. The Russians and the Obama administration. The Democrats defend the Obama administration, and all of a sudden they don't like the Russians, who they've been kowtowing to since
Bingo.
1917.
Yeah. You know what? That's why we call you the Great One.
And now the left is calling for a coup.
Yeah.
We heard this before, though. You remember, we've seen the Access Hollywood tape, Charlottesville, firing James Comey, the Khan family controversy, separating kids, and Stormy Daniels. All of these things, they've all said, it's the Holocaust. It's another 9/11. It's a constitutional crisis. Impeachment, internment camps. But I think the country is tuning this out. We've become numb to this type of hyperbole because the Democrats always overreach. Now they want to abolish ICE. Now they're chasing people out of restaurants and they're fantasizing about assassinations. It always ends up coming back, boomeranging them and hurting them politically. And I think this is going to be the same.
As to who is to be believed and to who is not to be believed, you can trust no one if you take this. Where did you get this idea that President Trump trusts me or I trust him? He defends the interest of the United States of America, and I do defend the interest of the Russian Federation. We do have interests that are common. We are looking for points of contact. There are issues where our postures diverge, and we are looking for ways to reconcile our differences, how to make our effort more meaningful. We should not proceed from the immediate political interests that guide certain political powers in our countries. We should be guided by facts. Could you name a single fact that would definitively prove the collusion? This is utter nonsense.